Imagine walking into a Roman barbershop 2,000 years ago. You sit down, the barber hands you a small cup, and inside is warm, aged human urine. He tells you to swish it around your mouth. And the wildest part? It actually worked. Welcome to one of the strangest chapters in dental history. Before you judge the Romans too harshly, let's get one thing straight. Ancient Rome was one of the most advanced civilizations the world had ever seen. They built aqueducts that carried fresh water across hundreds of miles, invented concrete so durable it still holds up 2 millennia later, and created a legal system we still use today. They engineered roads that connected an empire spanning 3 continents. These were not stupid people. So when they chose urine as a dental hygiene tool, there was real chemistry behind it. Chemistry they didn't fully understand, but chemistry nonetheless. Here's the science. When urine sits for a while, bacteria break down the urea inside it, and that process releases ammonia. Ammonia is an alkaline compound, and alkaline substances are surprisingly effective at breaking down organic stains and killing bacteria. In fact, ammonia is still used in cleaning products today. You probably have a bottle of ammonia-based glass cleaner under your kitchen sink right now. So the Romans had stumbled onto a genuinely effective cleaning agent. They just got it from a source that makes us cringe. Now, urine wasn't just for teeth. The Romans used it everywhere. Laundry workers, called fullers, would collect urine in large vats and use it to wash togas and other garments. They would stomp on clothes soaked in aged urine because the ammonia helped strip grease, dirt, and oils from fabric. Picture a row of workers knee-deep in troughs of old urine, stomping away like they were pressing grapes for wine. That was a real job, and it paid reasonably well. If you were walking through ancient Rome, you would have seen large clay pots placed on street corners. These weren't trash cans. They were public urinals, and fullers collected from them daily. The whole system was organized and completely normal to everyone living in it. Urine was so economically important that Emperor Vespasian, who ruled from 69 to 79 AD, actually placed a tax on it. His son Titus reportedly complained that the tax was disgusting. Vespasian held up a gold coin from the tax revenue, asked his son if it smelled bad, and when Titus said no, Vespasian replied with one of history's most famous lines. Pecunia non olet. Money does not stink. That phrase is still used today in economics and business when people argue that profit is profit regardless of its source. In fact, public pay toilets in some European countries are still called Vespasian in honor of that tax-happy emperor. But let's get back to the teeth. Roman poets and writers actually documented this practice. The poet Catullus, who lived in the 1st century BC, wrote a mocking poem about a man named Ignatius who had brilliantly white teeth. Catullus sneered that Ignatius smiled constantly to show off his teeth, but the secret to that bright smile was washing them with urine every morning. Catullus found it revolting, which tells us something interesting. Even in ancient Rome, not everyone was comfortable with this practice. Some thought it was perfectly sensible, others thought it was gross. Sound familiar? We have the exact same debates today about everything from raw milk to insect protein. The Romans didn't limit their dental care to urine, though. They had a whole range of oral hygiene tools. They used chew sticks, which were small twigs frayed at one end to create a brush-like surface. They made tooth powders from crushed bones, oyster shells, and charcoal. Some recipes included honey, which seems counterproductive to us now, but they believed it had healing properties. Wealthy Romans might add exotic ingredients like myrrh or nard to their tooth powder for fresh breath. Dental care was genuinely important to Roman culture. A bright smile signaled health, status, and self-respect. Showing up to the Roman Senate with stained or missing teeth would have been a serious social disadvantage, much like showing up to a modern job interview with visibly neglected hygiene. What's fascinating is that Roman teeth were actually in pretty good shape compared to later periods in history. Archaeologists studying Roman skulls have found relatively low rates of cavities. Part of this was diet. Romans didn't have refined sugar, which is the #1 cause of tooth decay today. Their diet was heavy on grains, olive oil, fish, and vegetables. Without sugar constantly feeding the bacteria in their mouths, their teeth lasted longer. The urine rinse probably helped too, keeping bacterial levels down through its ammonia content. Some researchers have even suggested that the fluoride naturally present in certain Roman water sources provided an additional layer of protection. Compare this to medieval Europe, roughly 1,000 years later, and the picture changes dramatically. Medieval Europeans had worse dental health than the Romans in many cases. Sugar became more available through trade, dental knowledge declined, and many of the Roman hygiene practices were forgotten or abandoned. Barbers doubled as dentists, and their primary solution for a toothache was simply pulling the tooth out, often without any pain relief. So, in a strange twist, the civilization that brushed with urine had better teeth than the one that came after, and thought it was too sophisticated for such things. Now, the Romans weren't the only ancient culture with unusual dental practices. The Egyptians made tooth powder from ox hooves, burnt eggshells, and pumice. In ancient China, people chewed on aromatic twigs from specific trees. The Greeks used rough linen cloths to wipe their teeth and rinsed with mixtures of salt and herbs. Some ancient Indian texts recommended rubbing teeth with a paste made from pepper, ginger, and rock salt. Every civilization tackled the same problem with whatever resources and knowledge they had available. The Romans just happened to discover that the ammonia in aged urine was particularly effective. There's also a class dimension to this story. In Rome, imported urine from certain regions was considered higher quality. Portuguese urine, specifically, had a reputation as the strongest and most effective. It was shipped across the Mediterranean specifically for dental and laundry use. This might sound absurd, but think about it in modern terms. We import beauty products from specific countries because we believe those versions are superior. French skincare, Japanese sunscreen, Korean face masks. The psychology is exactly the same. Romans just applied it to a very different product. The practice of using urine for cleaning didn't disappear with the Roman Empire either. In parts of Europe, urine was used in textile manufacturing well into the 18th century. Scottish weavers used it to set dyes in tartan fabric. It was commonly used in leather tanning across many cultures for centuries. Even during the Renaissance, alchemists and early chemists recognized urine as a valuable source of chemical compounds. The German alchemist Hennig discovered phosphorus in 1669 by boiling down massive quantities of urine, accidentally creating one of the most important chemical discoveries in history. The Industrial Revolution eventually replaced these biological processes with synthetic chemicals, but the underlying chemistry that made urine useful was eventually replicated in laboratories. So, what can we actually learn from all this? First, it's a reminder that disgust is cultural. What seems revolting to us was perfectly normal to millions of people for centuries. Second, effective solutions don't always come in pleasant packages. The Romans didn't have modern chemistry, but through trial and error they found something that genuinely cleaned teeth and whitened smiles. Third, science eventually caught up. We now understand exactly why ammonia works as a cleaning agent, and we produce it synthetically instead of biologically. Modern mouthwash contains antibacterial compounds that work on similar principles, just without the source material that makes you want to gag. It's also worth noting that the Romans were pragmatic above all else. They didn't use urine because they enjoyed it. They used it because it worked, and in a world without toothpaste, mouthwash, or dentists as we know them, you used what was available. That kind of practical problem-solving built an empire that lasted over 1,000 years. It's actually something worth admiring, even if the solution itself makes your stomach turn. Today, if someone told you to rinse your mouth with ammonia, you'd call poison control. But diluted in its natural biological form, that's essentially what Romans did every morning. And their teeth were arguably better for it than many people's teeth in centuries that followed. So the next time you squeeze that minty toothpaste onto your brush, maybe take a second to appreciate how far dental hygiene has come. And spare a thought for the ancient Romans, who figured out the chemistry long before anyone knew what chemistry even was. They just had to hold their noses while doing it.